I'm T Pollard, and I'm here to talk to you about my book, One Eighth of a Man Hate for the Skin I'm In. Now, I have about 70 plus titles on Amazon.com, both fiction and nonfiction. This particular book, One Eighth of a Man Hate for the Skin I'm In, is very pertinent for where we are today in the United States in relation to Black people and our entire society, political system, and everything else that's going on in general. There's been a decided shift in the last 10 years or so on race relations, for one. The need to be masked, the hood, the gown, they're gone. The disdain for minorities is naked and proud and bold, where it used to be something that happened in the shadows, in the woods at night, burning crosses. People just march down the street, walk in a restaurant, wherever, and proudly announce that they're superior to other folks, that people coming over here are poisoning the blood of America. So I get my inspiration for books from a number of sources. Sometimes it's just something I read, something I see. And One Eighth of a Man, Hate for the Skin I'm In, came from something I read. And it was a survey conducted by the Federal Reserve on wealth. And what it found when they did the survey is the median net worth of a Black family in the United States was 1/8 that of a white family in the United States. Can you put that in perspective just on pure optics? That would be someone less than a foot tall facing off against Shaquille O'Neal in a basketball game. That small person is not going to win. So when you think of a Black family or a Black individual speaking with someone, negotiating with someone who is worth 8 times more than they are, it's not really a conversation. They're not on the same planet. One person's in the valley, the other's on the mountaintop. So the question is, how did we get in this position? And it has something to do with the past, the present, and the future. Of course, the past in this country, people like me came over involuntarily as slaves. Now, when the Constitution was written and the Declaration of Independence, and they say all men are created equal and should enjoy the pursuit of happiness, things of that nature, that did not include people with skin like mine. My ancestors were not human in the eyes of the law. They were property. They were animals, so to speak. Slavery was human husbandry. And husbandry is defined as basically the management of animals, such as on a farm. So you can have sheep, cattle, pigs, chickens. They are managed. They are raised, bought, sold, trained, broken, put to work, and if they exceed their useful life, they are discarded, killed, whatever, and thrown away. Same thing for slaves. They were brought here, they were raised, trained, broken, sold, bought, put to work, and if they died in the field, then a hole was dug and they were deposited and replaced. not a big, huge difference, except slaves were actual humans, but not under the conditions of slavery. So slaves even had um, a situation where they could be broken, just like a wild horse. There were operations that specialized in that. And if a male slave was disobedient, rebellion, then they went through something called buck breaking. And buck breaking, and they even had specialized operations such as in the Caribbean, and their mission was to buck break and break slaves. So if that disobedient male was rebelling, they were basically raped in front of the other slaves, their family, the other people that were enslaved. And that served as a warning that if you get out of line, you'll get the same treatment. So they were emasculated. And the same thing is happening in modern times. Buck breaking, maybe not in the same manner, but if you consider what happened to George Floyd and some of the other black men that were killed by police in full view of cameras, those were warnings. They buck broke those men and they paid with their lives. And what did other people say when it was brought up? They should have obeyed instructions. There's a difference without a distinction. Okay, so don't assume that the things that were happening then aren't still happening now, just in a slightly different manner. Now, the conditions of slavery, where you had hundreds of years of uncompensated labor, and then you finally get to the point where you're free. And I don't define what happened with the end of slavery as being freed. I define it as being released. I define being freed as you're free and you have an equal opportunity to compete with everyone else out there for whatever's available for you in these United States. That didn't happen. We didn't get to 40 acres and a mule, although that process did actually start in the coastline of southern Georgia and northern Florida. They actually started cordoning off the 40 acres, but it was reversed. So it never went all the way through. They were actually taking land, moving some other folks out, and designating that land for freed slaves. The powers that be said, no, we're not going to do that. That's out. So we exited slavery and entered Reconstruction. We entered the Black Codes. We entered Jim Crow. We went from being at some point as much as 60% of the gross domestic product of the United States. We were very valuable as slaves to being a liability once slavery was over. Because now all of a sudden, that asset is now saying, I want mine. So now it's competition. So things like lynching and other forms of punishment and death ensued on slaves. We couldn't vote because voting in the beginning was sent out to the states to decide. And voting, for the most part, for a long period of time, was a privilege enjoyed by property owning white men. Because in the beginning, if you weren't a property owner, even if you were white, you couldn't vote. And these were state law setups, the old, states' right thing. Of course, women gained the right to vote, but that wasn't universal. there was a racial split in women gaining the right to vote. Um, one prominent suffragette in the women's right to vote movement said after black men got the right to vote before white women, said never in history has a white man made the made the masters of their former mistresses above white women. When you think about what she was saying, she was considering the slave women as the mistresses of the white masters because the masters would go out and have sex with the slave women. That wasn't a romantic relationship. Slave women were property. They couldn't refuse, they couldn't resist. But still, there was a resentment there. And that's the split between white women and black women. They gravitated more towards concerns about their race than their gender. But now look what's happening. They're actually voting for the people that are reducing their rights, banning abortion. They can't control the reproductive health. So they might need to rethink this and vote more towards what's better for their gender than their race. It's a complicated thing. So the other thing that's going on is in about 2045 or so, it's projected that the United States would become a majority minority country. So all of the total of all the minorities will outnumber the white former majority. That's the thing that's driving these folks crazy with fear because they think they're going to be pushed back and not have the political power because they will be outnumbered. So the things that are going on right now as far as voting laws and all the restrictions, all that is to reduce the political power of this coming majority. In a sense, it's basically it's people saying, why should someone that's worth 1/8 what I am set the political agenda for what I can do? Because I've got the money and I'm going to keep the power. So all this push of not teaching the true racial history of the United States, banning books, all that is to keep not us, but their offspring ignorant of the real history of the United States and who built it. Because if they feel that their predecessors built it, it'll be easier for them to put in place the draconian measures required to stay in control after they lose the majority. If they know the real history and they know about, the Trail of Tears and the explosion of slavery in the South because the cotton gin made cotton profitable, and that's what caused the Native Americans to be moved out of all that land so they can expand cotton growth and production. They might say, that was a raw deal. And they might not have the stomach to say, let's keep oppressing these people. So a lot of this is in my book, 1/8 of a Man. 1/8 of a Man, Hate for the Skin I'm In. And I put it in a book because they used to say, if you want to hide something from a Negro, put it in a book. I say, if you want to present something to a black person, put it in a book. Because guess what? It's not illegal for us to read anymore.